Okay, so we're going to be talking about multi-digit multiplication today. We're going to do two examples, one whole number example and then one example with decimals, just so we can review how to do each. So the first one, we are going to be multiplying 353 by 26. So when we talk about multi-digit multiplication, we have to remember that our numbers go in certain spots based on the place value, okay? So the very first thing we're gonna do is I like to color code for you guys so that way you guys remember where the number that you multiply goes in your answer. So we're gonna start by doing that. The very first number that you're going to be multiplying is 6 times 3 because we start at the right always. So that's gonna be the first number and we're gonna put that in the box right here. After that, we're going to do 6 times 5. So I'm going to label everything first, and then we'll go through and do the multiplication. So the second thing that we're going to be multiplying is 6 times 5. And we're going to put that number here in the 10 spot because we are multiplying 6 by the 5 in the ones position. The last thing we're going to be multiplying 6 by is the hundred spot. So I'm going to go around here and label that 3. I'm going to do a little bit bigger of a box here just because I already know that the answer is going to be a 2-digit number. So I want to make sure that we have enough space for 2 digits to go inside. So now let's go back and do the actual multiplication. So first is 6 times 3, which is 18. We write the 8 in the 1 spot and we carry the 1 above the 10 spot. Okay, now we're going to be multiplying 6 times 5. 6 times 5 is 30, and then we add the 1 that is above that we carried. So 6 times 5 is 30, plus 1 is 31. We're only going to write the 1 in our tens position, and then we're going to carry the 3. Okay. The last thing we're multiplying over here is 6 times 3, which is 18 again. But the difference this time, 6 times 3 is 18, and then you need to add 3 to the 18. So that would be 21. So we're going to write 21 in the red box because that's the third thing that we multiply by. All right, we have now multiplied the 6 in the ones position. So now we're going to go through, erase the numbers that we carried so we don't get confused. And then I'm going to go through and label the tens positions for you so that way you know where those numbers go as well. So the very first thing when we're doing our tens, we need to have a placeholder 0 or an X, whatever you feel comfortable doing, in the ones position. We aren't multiplying by ones anymore, so we don't need a number won't go in that position. So we put a 0 in the ones position because we are multiplying by the tens, okay? First thing on this side that we're going to be multiplying is the 2 times 3. That number is going to go here, okay? Then we will multiply 2 times 5, and I'm labeling it 1, 2. That number is going to go here in the hundreds position. And the third thing that we're multiplying by is 2 times 3, and that number is going to go in the thousands position, okay? So we have 4 numbers here. We are also going to have 4 numbers here. So let's go through and multiply. So the very first thing we're multiplying is 2 times 3, which is 6. Okay. Now we need to multiply the second spot, so we're multiplying 2 tens by 5. So 2 times 5 is 10. We're going to write the 0 here and carry the 1 over the 3. The last thing that we're multiplying is 2 times 3, which is 6. And then we need to add the 1 that we carried up here. So 2 times 3 is 6, plus 1 is 7. Now that we've done all the multiplication, we can now go and add those numbers together. So we're going to do a multi-digit addition now. So starting on the right-hand side as always, 8 plus 0 is 8, 1 plus 6 is 7, 1 plus 0 is 1, 2 plus 7 is 9. If we start on our right side and go over 3 place value positions, that's where our comma goes. So we're starting on the right, 1, 2, 3. Your answer is 9,178. Now over to our decimal multiplication. With decimal multiplication, the very first thing that you need to do is move the decimal, okay? So we did it 2 ways in class. We moved the decimal, and then we also did it another way where we just counted the digits after the decimal and added our number back in, our decimal back in. But I'm going to show you again how to move the decimal and do the multiplication. So first of all, we want to make a whole number. So the very first thing we're going to be doing is we're going to move our decimal to the very right of our number. We moved the decimal 1 position, okay? So keep that in mind when we go through and do our multiplication. All right, so the same concept is over here that is over here. We're gonna go through and multiply the 1s by everything in the top number, then we'll multiply the 10s by everything in the top number, okay? So we'll go with the same colors just to not confuse anyone. So the very first thing we're gonna be multiplying is 5 times 3, okay? So 5 times 3 is 15. We're gonna write the 5 and carry the 1. I'm not gonna do the boxes this time, but I will do the same colors. I just don't want you to get confused with the numbers that we're multiplying and the times that we moved the decimal. So I'm trying to make it a little less confusing. The second thing we're gonna be multiplying now is 5 times 5, which is 25, plus 1 is 26. We write the 6 and we carry the 2. After that, the last thing that we multiply is 5 times 4, which is 20. Then we add 2 to make 22, okay? We are going to be multiplying by 10s, so let's erase the numbers that we carried so we don't get confused. And we're going to automatically place our placeholder 0 there because, again, we are multiplying 10s, not 1s, okay? So, again, I'll do the same colors. So the very first thing that we're going to multiply 1 by, 1 times 3. So we're multiplying the 10s by the 1s position. So 1 times 3 is 3. The second thing we're multiplying is 1 times 5, which is 5. And the very last thing we need to multiply 1 by in the 10 spot is this 4. So 1 times 4 is 4. We're going to do the same thing that we did over here and go through and add the numbers together. And then I'll show you what the difference is at the end. So 5 plus 0 is 5, 6 plus 3 is 9, 2 plus 5 is 7, 2 plus 4 is 6. Now last time we went through and we added our comma. The one thing that we actually have to do first though is we need to make sure we even need a comma. So when we made 45 and 3/10 a whole number, we moved the decimal 1 position to the right. You have to put the decimal back in your answer. So we're gonna bring that down just like we did in class before. And we're gonna move our decimal 1 spot to the left because we always have to have the decimal in the answer because we had it in our equation at the beginning. So your answer is 679 and 5/10. Do we need a comma? No. If this whole number was 4 digits or more, then you would go through and put a comma. But since it's only in the hundreds, you actually don't need a comma for that.